Welcome to the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Hello fish fans, and welcome back to the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report with yours truly, Brie Gabrielle and Captain Rick Murphy. Rick, it was such a fun show last week, and I'm sure you had a blast in the Keys, didn't you?
I did, had a great time in the Keys, Brie. I missed you guys here in the studio, though, I want to tell you that.
Oh, well, I know someone that missed you terribly is sitting over there at the workbench, Dave Ferrell. Yes, you did. You did.
I had a
there were
moment
some
of,
tears.
There was a moment of silence for you.
There was.
Oh,
Sure.
gosh.
Many moments of blissful silence.
That's
Very
good,
nice.
Dave. There was. Alrighty, Rick, we're going to keep the excitement going because for those of us who don't have a boat, me, we're talking about fishing from piers and jetties today. Isn't that right?
You're right.
Do you have any funny stories?
I do. You know, the one story that comes to mind is we
one.
were actually up in Destin. We were filming a Sportsman's Adventure episode. So we went to the Oskaloosa Pier, which I'm sure you'll hear Pat Deneen talk about it. The tarpon were swimming down the beach. Imagine this, a school of fish goes swimming by. 25 to 50 people immediately all start casting these big spoons. It was one of the coolest things I ever saw. But then I watched a guy hook a fish and then fight it up and down the pier, ended up taking him down the beach. He jumped off of the pier into the water with his rod and chased the fish down the beach.
What a
it
guy.
was epic.
That
What a
sounds like
first-
my kind of guy.
Yeah. it
Not
was,
you, though.
No, no.
No, I don't
Daddy-
go into the water.
No.
All right, to start us off on the right track is your captain from the Central East region, Captain Jeffrey Page.
Central West.
Central West, oy vey.
Region.
You know
That's
what? I was
right.
just doing that to see if you were paying attention, and you are. So from your Central West
Alrighty.
region.
Well, as you know, in the Starts on Central West region, there are no shortage of piers or jetties. Starting to the north, probably the most famous one, and we actually did a Coast to Cool moment last year on Sportsman's Adventure on the Skyway Fishing Pier, which actually became a fishing pier due to a tragedy back in 1981 when a barge on a foggy morning ran into the main span. A Greyhound bus with other vehicles plunged into Tampa Bay, but from it came the pier, which has two bait stands, north and south, and allows anglers opportunities to fish for light tackle species like snapper, sheephead, pompano, Spanish mackerel, or try to land bigger game like tarpon, sharks, grouper, even kingfish, to name a few. As we work our way south in my region, there are two piers at the north end of Anna Maria Island, both accessible, public, and the Tony Saprito Pier next to Hart's Landing in Sarasota, the Venice Jetties, and the Venice Fishing Pier, and then a lot of county piers in Englewood and Port Charlotte, and then finally the old railroad bridge in Placida and the El Joe Bean Bridge at the mouth of Mayaca River in Port Charlotte, where many a big snook and tarpon are taken in the upcoming fall months. All in all, your West Central region is stacked with piers and jetties, and at your local tag office where you get your fishing license and your automobile tag, you can get a list of all your smaller county-operated piers. Anyway, I've got a photo tonight of Eric Hernandez. He's just one of many guys that fish regularly at the Venice Fishing Pier, and he's showing off a tarpon that he went down on the beach and landed and released successfully. That's one of the bigger species they catch off the Venice Fishing Pier.
Well, that sounds familiar.
Yeah. Tell us about the trout, Paige.
Speckled trout, Rick, you know I'm just a trout fisherman from Sarasota, Florida, and September is a great month for trout fishing, mainly because a lot of the bigger fish have moved back into the bay from the Gulf spawn. A lot of folks don't know this, but the sea trout spawns 2 or 3 times a year, and that's why a lot of times when you're catching smaller, say 12 to 14-inch males, a week or two later, they're going to show up those 16 to 24-inch fish, and they're hungry. Live free-lined, cork pilchards, live free-lined or cork pilchards or pinfish are your best bet, and you still want to fish in that 4 to 6 foot range of broken grass and sand flats areas such as just north of Long Bar, Emerson Point, as well as the reef off Bishop's Harbor. For lures, it's tough to beat the saltwater assassin 5-inch jerkbait in the baby bass or the Houdini pattern rigged on a 1/4 ounce silver hookup jig head.
All right, Paige, before we go offshore, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the navionics from your region. Now, guys, we're talking about the Venice Jetty. Now, certainly this week we're talking about Venice and all the different jetties and piers. Just south of there, you actually have the Venice Pier. But more importantly, the one thing that comes to mind is as the fall mullet migration starts, guess what? The mullet are going to come down the beach. They're going to hit the pier. It's a great place to set up. Now, on the incoming tide, those jetties are going to actually have current that gets pushed in. On the outgoing tide, a place that I know Captain Page loves to fish for the snook is right down here along this edge. Remember, the current's going to hit this, and as it flows out, it's going to push the bait up and against the corners. All right, Jeffrey, tell us what else is going on offshore in your region.
Offshore, Rick, the red grouper. I've gotten multiple reports of awesome red grouper fishing from your weekenders to your daily offshore captains. In as close as 75 feet of water on out to 120 feet. The key, Rick, has been finding the smaller areas of live hard bottom with good bait stacks showing on your machine. Live pinfish have been the bait of choice, but frozen sardines have been producing real good. I've got a photo that was sent to me this week from a big fan of the show, Daniel Sane of Bradenton, Florida, with a nice red grouper. He got in 110 feet of water off Siesta Key. Second species, kingfish. You know, Rick, this is the first month with an R in it, and they always talk about oysters being good to eat when the R months, but kingfish start to show up in these R months too, and the first early push of kings are starting to show up offshore. Anglers are picking up nice kingfish on flat lines while they're bottom fishing over structure in 75 to 110 feet of water. It's a good idea to pay attention for cobia as well and look for this kingfish action just to get better as we get into October. I've got another photo from our same angler, Daniel Sane, caught this big smoker king while he was grouper fishing on a flat line.
He's insane.
Yeah. Hey, Daniel, thanks for sending those pictures in. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the sea sucker hotspots from the Central West region. Inshore, redfish, big schools of reds have moved in from the Gulf and are feeding on massive bait schools off of Fort DeSoto as well as Weeden Island. Throw a 1/4 ounce gold spoon or cork pinfish, and then offshore, red grouper. The bite remains best bet out in the Gulf, and 25 to 32-inch reds are holding on Swiss cheese bottom. 75 feet of water is where to look for them off of Boca Grande, north to Venice.
All right, now moving on over to the southeast region, Captain Jimbo Thomas has all the pier and jetty info you could want for this weekend.
That's right. Now, if you want to go fishing off of a pier, the southeast region is definitely the place to do it. There's no other area in the whole state that the deep water comes so close to shore. Now, at one time, there was quite a few fishing piers in the region, but over the years, a lot of those piers have been beat up by hurricanes and tropical storms, so there's only a few remaining. We got Lake Worth Pier, Deerfield Beach Pier, the Pompano Pier, Anglin's Pier, and the newly rebuilt South Beach Pier. And there's also a lot of catwalks and areas to fish around a lot of the bridges. Now, I believe the Pompano and the South Beach Piers, those are free, and the others charge around $3 to $4. There's also good fishing around the jetties, although you do risk your life walking over those rocks, but you can safely fish those from a boat. Then the Boynton Inlet Jetty, it's basically a fishing pier, and then on the south side of Oliver Inlet, there's a concrete walkway. Now, the snook can be caught year-round off all the piers, and assorted snappers, grunts, and jacks. Those are the pier mainstays. Then in the winter months, Spanish mackerel, bluefish, pompano, cobia, and even the occasional kingfish can be caught off the piers and the jetties. Now, most of these piers will hold pilchards, sardines, and other kinds of bait, which you can bring a sabiki rod, drop down, sabiki up your own bait to use as live or dead bait. And then there's a lot of hangs and snags around these piers and the jetties to bring along plenty of hooks, leaders, and especially egg sinkers. Now, staying inshore, snook season is open, and they've been biting pretty good in the inlets and also along the beaches. In the inlets, fishing's been best on the outgoing tide, mainly because the water's been really clear on the incoming tide. So if you got murky water on the incoming, snook fishing's going to be good as well. They get a little weary in that clear water. Our good buddy, Cap Bouncer Smith, aboard Bouncer's Dusty, he's been fishing the ledge and the jetties, the government cut, and reports having really good catches of mostly oversized slot snook, and he's been catching them on live pinfish, drifted through the cut on a Jupiter rig, fishing down near the bottom, and he's had the best action early in the mornings and then late in the afternoons into the evenings. If there's no live bait on board, try bouncing 1 to 2 ounce jigs along the bottom or trolling Rapala Magnum. Then the beaches, they've also been seeing some good snook action, especially from Boca Inlet north, where the fish have been cruising up and down the beach. A lot of times you can sight these fish and cast live baits to them, Rapala X-Wrap, subwalks, and even fly tackle. And some of these fish off the beach have been up to 20 pounds. Now moving offshore, dolphin fishing remain consistent, but most of the fish are being found a little further offshore than what we've been seeing in the past week. Most of the fish are being caught 10 to 20 miles offshore, around sargassum patches, weed lines, and under birds or anything you happen to find floating. A lot of these schools of dolphin have been made up of fish in the 8 to 12 pound range, and they're being caught on the troll with rig ballyhoo and small lures. And then once you locate the fish, they've been eating live baits, cut ballyhoo, or bonita. Some of the larger fish, up to 35 pounds or better, are moving to the south, and they're being found under birds. I got a photo here. This is Chris Arnold and Scott Forte with a 46-pound bull they caught off Miami on Monday. So that is a heck of a nice fish.
Wow, that is a great fish. What else you got for me offshore?
Well, we've also been finding lots of nice-sized triple tails around any of the debris and the weed patches that the dolphin have been hanging around. One of the problems has been getting a bait to these triple tails through the hundreds of small jacks that have been hanging around the grass and the floaters. These are basically small Almaco jacks, and they're like little piranhas. But Captain Art Sapp aboard Native Son, he told me he's been throwing handfuls of cut-up chunk baits, throwing them in the water. These little jacks are coming up, eating them all. He's been feeding them until they get full pretty much. Then he's been able to sight cast, cut, and live baits to the triple tails. There have been lots of small triple tails, but it's pretty easy to sight and then take out the larger fish. You want to put a bait right on their nose to get the bite. The size limit is 15 inches with a 2 fish per person bag limit, but most of the larger obvious fish have been easy keepers in the 2 to 4 pound range. There's even been some triple tails up to 8 pounds caught.
All right, thank you so much, Jimbo. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the First National Bank of South Florida hotspots inshore. Look for those snook in the inlets and off the beaches where they are eating live and artificial baits in the evening and early in the morning. And then offshore, cast live or cut baits to dolphin offshore around the weeds and anything that might be floating, Brie.
I love my Lake Worth Pier. I've actually been diving the pier lately.
You
and I
have?
have seen some nice sized snook there.
Have
so
you?
It's been fun.
Be
Yes.
careful, be careful.
Oh, you don't like the water. All right, Floridians, stay tuned because coming up on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report, we're checking out the Panhandle region and then diving off the deep end with Dave. We'll be right back. Whoa, Dave, watch out.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Chevrolet, find new roads. Yamaha, reliability starts here. Contender Boats, performance through innovation. Humminbird, simply, clearly, better. The Florida Lottery, just imagine. Decks and Docks Lumber Company, Florida's dock and seawall supplier. And King Sailfish Mounts, www.kingsailfish.com.
There are 2 cages in this room. The one on your right is made out of high-strength steel, and the other is made of aluminum. Now I'm going to release a 700-pound grizzly bear into the room, so you better pick a cage and get in it.
This is crazy. Oh my goodness. Ooh.
Why did you pick the steel cage?
Harder for the bear to get in the steel.
You want to see something else made with high-strength steel? That's the Chevy Silverado, made with high-strength steel for high-strength dependability.
Beautiful. This is highly irregular.
Yamaha's next-generation V6 4-strokes are changing the game.
Mid-range power was awesome. Fuel, the burn, it's unbelievable.
Couldn't believe the speed and the fuel economy. It's pretty impressive.
I mean, I couldn't believe the power. It was like it was more like doing a quarter mile on a drag strip.
And them things are like, it's a whole nother game. So I made the switch.
Experience the difference for yourself during the Yamaha Discover V6 Offshore Demo Tour. See why we call it the Game Changer.
It's been said that a bad day of fishing is better than a good day at the office. But down here in the Florida Keys, we have to disagree. Because with over 200 of the world's best charter boat captains and guides, there's no such thing as a bad day of fishing. The Florida Keys and Key West.
glad you're back because it's now time for the FWC News and Notes. September 12th, there's the Vero Beach boating course in Vero Beach. September 19th, there's a kids fishing clinic in Sarasota. And also on September 19th, children in the wild throughout the state of Florida. For more information, visit myfwc.com. But now it's time to go off the deep end.
Well, Hummingbird takes us off the deep end here at the CCA Workbench. Dave, we're letting children go in the wild.
Children in the wild. That's what this is. That's
Hey.
what this is. Bridges, piers, and this is when I was a kid, I was a child in the wild. You know, this is what I did. I hung out underneath the bridge or hung out on the jetty. I didn't get a boat till like 10 years ago. Wow. So I did a lot of walking.
All right, so you got 10 things.
I got 10 things.
You better go.
First off, we want to talk about, you want to have a backpack. Nowadays, you know, but back in the day, we didn't have backpacks. We used 5-gallon buckets, and you had one in each hand, and if you fell, your face went into the ground because you didn't want to let go of your bucket. If you have a backpack on, you can at least keep one hand free at all times by putting most of your stuff on your back.
I gotcha.
So use a backpack.
I like it. Good idea.
Keep all your stuff in modular boxes so you can find it easy. I got one for jigs and stuff like that. I got one with weights and hooks. I got one with plugs. And I got one with my gotchas, but I'll come to those later. Another thing, always bring some wire. You know, when you're on a jetty or a pier or someplace, bluefish come through, mackerel come through. If you're the only guy with some wire, you're going to be the only guy catching them. Everybody else is going to be getting cut off. Always bring some wire. Sabikis, the guy who can catch live bait on the pier, you know, from the schools that are there, he's going to be the king. If you can get catch live bait where you're fishing, you know, you're gonna rule. So if you got a little cigar minnow catcher or, you know, a sabiki rig or some sites where you can catch bait on the pier, you want to have some sabikis. A good knife, you know, you want to have a good knife so you can fillet the fish or cut up chunks of bait. You know, you don't want to be running up and down the pier asking for a knife.
Right.
Also a cutter that goes around your neck for line or whatever, so you don't have to keep going back to your beach cart or whatever. If you're at the end of the pier and you want to change something, you don't have to go all the way back to your cart to get a cutter to cut your braid or whatnot. Have something hanging on your thing. A light, you know, bridges and piers, you're usually going to be out there at night sometimes. A good light that goes on your head, again, to keep your hands free. A good headlamp. That's one by Pelican. You can't beat those guys. Now, one of my favorite lures is a gotcha. And I got a whole bunch of them right here.
Whole box.
A whole box. If you're going to be on a bridge or a pier or even in the surf, gotchas. I mean, I think.
Now, why is that one of your favorites, Dave?
For some reason, everything eats this thing, from little black snappers, bluefish, mackerel. This thing's gonna get a bite, and I bought every color. When I find these things on sale, I got these for $1 a piece at a Sports Authority sale. They were in a $1 bin. Those things are usually like $4 a piece. But you know,
throw them a mile.
Throw them a mile, and everything eats them. And you can put them on a wire thing, and you'll be great. Sunscreen. I think I got some sunscreen in here. Always make sure you have a bunch of sunscreen because you don't want to burn yourself up.
Nice.
Nice wire ties.
Now, what is this wire tie thing
I use these when I'm carrying more than one rod or reel, so I can carry more than one rod in one hand if I wire them up with these.
Oh,
I just twist them all together, and I can grab the whole bunch, and I don't have to worry about all the tips going one way or that, and I can carry more rods. It's always good to have more than one rod or reel. Also, extra line and leaders. You know, that's the first thing that you're going to run off. When you're at any of these bridge places, these inlets, there's going to be snags. And if you're not bouncing your big bomber long A, which is another one of my favorite lures that goes along with that gotcha right here, a chartreuse bomber, and at night, if you're not bouncing that thing on the bottom and losing a few of them, you're not fishing it right. And that's the same way with a bucktail jig or anything. You have to bring a ton of them because you're going to be losing them. So don't go with just 2. Bring 10.
You did good.
Well,
you flew through that. You're going to need a break now.
I'm out of breath, man. Yeah, exactly. That's my only exercise.
You know why he talks so fast?
Why?
He told me in the commercial break he got to go to number 1.
Oh.
He needs to go.
All right.
That's why we're going
you
so
go
fast.
do that. All right. Remember, guys, if you have pictures you would like to share with us, we want you to post them on Instagram or Facebook using the hashtag CFIFR. But now, Captain Patanine from the Panhandle region, what you got for us, Patty Pants?
Hey, Brie, things are going well up here.
Good.
We got bridges and piers for sure. We got some piers in Panama City, Fort Palm Beach, on Oakland Island, and Pensacola. And this time of year, they're catching king, Spanish, a few dolphin, small mahi-mahis. But as fall gets cooler, fishing should continue to get better. They also catch some exotic sailfish that's been caught off the piers. And Oakland Island Pier is a really good pier for tarpon during the summer. I know some guys have caught 40 or 50 of them easily. The pompano bite should pick up as fall begins and these migrating fish start swimming west to east back down the beach. So that should be working pretty well October, early November. If you want to fish off the jetties, Panama City's got a really good jetty system, and so does Destin. And Panama City, you access the jetty at St. Andrews State Park. In Destin, you want to either park on the tip of Holiday Isle and walk down the beach, or park at the foot of the Destin Bridge to get to the West Jetty. And you're going to catch redfish, bluefish, and some Spanish mackerel off the jetties. The best bite for the reds and the blues are typically on a falling tide, while the Spanish are usually good on an incoming tide. And then in the springtime, they get a whole bunch of pompanos, particularly on that East Jetty at Destin. Use live baits for the redfish and spoons, jigs, or lures for the blues and Spanish. And then staying with the redfish theme, Captain Chuck Kemper of Lucky Chucky Charters in Navarre, he says he's been doing really well in the Sound for redfish, but also at the Destin Bridge and the Coast Guard Station and the channels nearby. They're using live baits. He said most of those fish are being caught on a falling tide using live croakers, live spot minnows, or live small pin fish. Most of those fish are 25 to 27 inches, some are just over slots, a really good grade of fish. And if there's plenty of 20 to 24-inch fish on the grass flats in the middle parts of the bay, and anywhere from 2 to 4 foot of water, and use search baits like spoons or even a jig with a soft plastic. Moving offshore, the red snapper bite, we had an open season for them in state waters this past weekend throughout the Panhandle, and a lot of fish were caught from all the way from St. Joe to Pensacola, mainly targeting small junk piles or natural bottom. And the bigger areas, more well-known areas, have been pretty well hit hard during regular snapper season. So kind of search it out a little bit and find those smaller areas. If you're fishing and you know there's fish there, but you're not getting the bites, lighten up on your tackle, go with a smaller hook, a longer leader, and a lighter leader, and you're going to get bites from fish that are a little bit more wary, and maybe you've seen all that other stuff before. The snappers are running 4 to 10 pounds. And then staying offshore, there's still plenty of amberjacks to be found on the wrecks and the high relief natural bottom. We were catching them Monday on some structure in 300 foot of water using live hardtails, fishing mid-water. But the key is when you get the bite, either get off the wreck or use the boat to help pull yourself away from it. Because even with the heavy tackle we were using, they were wrecking us down into the bottom. And there's some big ones around. The Fifth Amendment out of Destin, they brought in a 95-pounder this week. So you don't be afraid to gear up on them. And then if you don't have the live baits, you can also get them on the Williamson Vortex-style jigs. There's a photo there. Jeremiah Strawn of Destin sent a photo of a nice amberjack they caught off of Destin in 196 feet of water using live baits.
All right, thank you so much, Pat. Great report. We're going to take a look at the blue water outrigger hotspots from the Panhandle region. Inshore redfish at the Destin Bridge on the outgoing tide using live croakers, spot minnows, or finger mullet. And then offshore, amberjacks on the high relief, natural bottom, and metal wrecks using live blue runners, Brie.
Okay, Rick, well, if you want to meet this guy, he'll be at the Gulf Shore Shrimp Festival in Orange Beach, Alabama on October 10th and 11th, so don't miss it. I'm sure the eats will be simply irresistible.
It will. I went last year. It was the bomb. Okay, come on.
I'll come. Okay, right. Well, don't swim off. When we return, we're talking with some very special guests before we head to the Northeast and Southwest regions, only on the Chevy Florida
Insider Fishing Report.
Good job, Rick. Yay.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. Blue Water Outriggers, everything for your outdoor adventures. Guy Harvey Clothing by AFTCO. Drummond Community Bank. Costa Sunglasses. See what's out there. And Casa Vieja Lodge, 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala.
Need new wiper blades?
Drive safe. Get Trico windshield wiper blades at Bennett Auto Supply.
you want the protection, performance, and peace of mind, only Trico can deliver. Bennett Auto Supply. Do it yourself, but not alone.
I'm Captain Rick Murphy, and I'm a life member of CCA. Why am I so involved with CCA, you ask? Because I want our fisheries to be in better shape for my kids and their kids. CCA is working to ensure the future of recreational fisheries and the rights of recreational anglers. The future of fishing starts today with you. How do you want to leave things with your kids? If you're like me, you'll want to make the right choice and go to joinccaflorida.com right now.
Guatemala.
What do you think?
When I first sit in the seat, it makes me think of a BMW.
I feel like I'm in a Lexus.
You would think that this was a brand new Audi.
It's like a luxury car.
It feels kind of like an Infiniti.
Very similar to Range Rover.
This is pretty high tech.
Yeah, it is. It reminds me of the Mercedes.
This is Chevy?
Wow.
I have a new appreciation for Chevy.
They thought about me.
I could totally rock this. This thing feels pretty boss.
It looks kind of dope.
That's pretty cool.
This is the jam.
Pretty bomb, dude.
Maybe I will go Chevy.
I'm definitely in it.
Attention all college students, how would you like a chance to deck out your dorm? Post a throwback picture of your first day of school using the hashtag CFIFR for the opportunity to win a king sailfish mount to sweeten your space. That would be pretty awesome to have to show off when people walk in your dorm room. All right, let's head on over to the workbench and see what kind of sweet guys are over there.
Well, thank you so much, Brie. Harold, we are here with Harold Bennett from Bennett Auto Supply with me. Harold, every year you come in and you show me this coolest stuff. So what are we going to talk about this week?
Well, Rick, we're going to start with batteries. And this is a deep cycle battery. And the great thing about it, you know, if you don't use it for 6 months, it's going to crank right on up.
I like
great
that.
Thing.
Now, what about the warranties on deep cycles? Does AC Delco have something?
I think they got something really special. Something goes wrong with this battery and it doesn't work for 18 months.
What?
Free replacement.
Not prorated?
No, sir. First 18 months, free battery.
All right, man, that sounds great.
Just come to Bennett Auto Supply.
All right. So, Harold, you know, every once in a while, you know, we're out there, we're running all our electronics, we're running our bilge pumps, and we need a little boost. And these guys from Schmitz have really come up with a neat pack.
Yeah, Schumacher is really got a great thing. If you notice, it's very small, easily zips up, protects from the weather, and when you need it, this will, the 4-stroke, boom, crank it right up for you.
So it's 12,000 milliamps. Milliamps?
I don't know if it's milliamp stuff, but it's a powerful thing. It can charge up your iPhone, you know.
Your GoPro?
If something doesn't work and you got your iPhone, or whatever kind of phone you have, it'll get you there.
And it will. And we've used them before when we've done exactly what I described.
Super.
All right, so now we have wheel bearing protectors by Kurt. Why don't you tell me a little bit about this, Harold?
Well, I think everybody knows they go and they back the trailer in the water, and the brackish water in particular, salt gets in there. Well, this protects against that, and you can show them the little nozzle on the other side. You get the grease gun, pump it 2 or 3 times, away you go, and you're ready to go. And it protects you, and your bearings are going to last a whole lot longer with this protection.
All right, good job. Hey, 2-cycle oil in the outboard world certainly is something we got to have. Why don't you tell me what Valvoline's got
Well,
for us?
Valvoline is a top oil. You know, everybody says you got to use this oil, that oil. I guarantee you any motor, Valvoline oil will work and do a superb job for you.
And we got a lot of new products. You got a lot of great stuff in all your stores throughout the state of Florida.
Yes.
If people want to know more about it, how can they find out about it?
They can go to BennettAuto.com, and if you register, you sign up, you get $10 emailed to your house to come in and buy something with.
What?
Yeah, $10 free.
Money in mail.
Money in mail.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Harold, for coming. Brie, we got to go to another region. Where are we headed?
We do, Rick, but first, I have my Chevy truck now, and Bennett Auto Supply is the place that I love to go. It's the one and only place you need to go for your car/truck. But thanks for coming, Harold, and happy belated birthday, too. Okay, now on to the Northeast region with Captain Tommy, I take the best pictures in the world, Derringer.
Oh, well, thank you so much there, Brie.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. You know, we have some really great fishing piers here in the Strike Zone Northeast region, and our jetty fishing is just going off right now. Now, 3 of the great piers that are on the beach in the region are Jacksonville, St. Augustine, and Flagler Beach. Now, you can catch all kinds of different fish from them depending on the time of year, but right now with the start of our mullet run, it's really a great time to get out there. The redfish, tarpon, kingfish, and tons of big jacks, they all get into those pods of mullet along the beach, and they're going to pass by or even go under all those piers. So if you're looking to catch a big fish from one of those piers, right now is going to be a great time to go. A live mullet, either on the bottom or free line on a circle hook, would be the go-to for those bigger fish. And just remember to come prepared with some heavy tackle and a landing or a pier net. Now on to the area jetties. You know, the jetty fishing is about as good as it gets right now as the mullet, but the big ones and the small ones are seriously stacking up at all the jetty rocks. Now, the tarpon have been thick, and so have the jacks and the redfish. Even a few snook are sneaking in there. Now, the best bite has been on the top or the bottom of the tide, but they seem to be feeding through the tide as well. Now, if you're targeting the tarpon, an 8 to 10 inch mullet, free line to the edges of the bait pods have been working really well. Just when you get out there, just look for the busting and the rolling fish. Now, usually that tarpon bite is an early morning thing, but with all the bait in the inlets, they've been feeding just about all day long. Now, St. Augustine Inlet has really been one of the hot spots for tarpon this week. And speaking of inlet tarpon, I've got a picture here that I took as I was idling by. This is Captain Brian Hubble and Travis Frazier, right as they were releasing this tarpon they hooked in the mullet schools right there at the St. Augustine Inlet. Now, I mentioned the redfish being at the inlets, and they have been really thick at the St. Augustine Inlet this past week. With all those mullet in there, those redfish are really stacking up. A finger mullet on a fish finder rig with enough weight to get to the bottom is going to be the way to go. Those fish have been chewing best on the last hour of the outgoing tide and the last hour of the incoming tide. Those fish are hanging fairly close to those jetty rocks in about 10-20 feet of water, but some of the bigger ones are out just a little bit deeper. Now, there have been a lot of slot fish in there, but quite a few oversized redfish too. Now, the redfish bite inshore has been good as well, as those smaller finger mullet are all over the flats and in the creeks. And with the early morning high tide we've got this weekend, I would toss a topwater skitter walk along the grass lines up on the flats that are close to the Mayport and St. Augustine Inlet, and especially where you see those big concentrations of mullet. And once the tide backs out, net some of those finger mullet and fish them on either a 1/4 ounce jig head or a fish finder rig, and again, put them right where you find those big bait pods. Now, because of all the rain we've been having, the water is fairly murky in some areas that are further away from the inlets, and in that case, you might want to go to like a cut piece of mullet rather than the live stuff. In the creeks, the redfish have been eating those finger mullet really good as well on the last hour of the outgoing tide in the deeper creek holes. Now, I got a picture here. This is John McCullough with a nice redfish he caught on a live finger mullet. Now, we caught that fish by tossing his bait right next to an oyster bar with a huge school of mullet swimming right around it. Now, I spoke to quite a few of our offshore captains this week, and there really hasn't been a whole lot happening offshore other than the bottom fishing. I did talk to Captain Billy Hunsicker from EndlessSummerCharters.com, and he tells me the triggerfish are wide open right now as they're spawning. He says they've been really big. They're averaging in the 4 to 8 pound range. Now, he's catching them really good in the 140 to 180 foot depth on any kind of structure, and they're eating just about anything from bonita chunks and squid to any kind of live bait as well. Now, also offshore, the snapper bite has been good. And I talked to Captain Robert Johnson from JodyLynnCharters.com, and he tells me the beeliners are still chewing good, and from the 21 fathom and deeper depths, mangrove snapper are still big, although the numbers of those mangroves seem to be dwindling just a little bit. Now, if the current isn't ripping too hard, you can chum those mangroves up to the top. Most of those fish are coming off the bottom on a live bait or a chunk sardine. Got one last picture here. This is from a recent trip on the Jody Lynn. This is the guys with their mangroves, as well as some of the other bottom species that are chewing real good right now.
All right, thank you so much, Tommy. Great report from the Strike Zone Northeast region. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots. Captain Tommy says, inshore, the Mayport and St. Augustine jetties are loaded up with mullet. Fish those mullet schools for redfish and tarpon at the top and the bottom of the tide. And then offshore, mangrove snapper and vermilions. as well as triggerfish on the offshore reefs and wrecks at 120 feet or deeper. The triggers right now are the best bet because they're spawning, they're eating everything.
Eating everything. All right, coming to you from the Southwest region is Captain Ronnie Houston with a pinpoint accurate report for this weekend. Share your secrets with us, Ronnie.
Well, you know what, as the theme species is piers and jetties, now the southwest coast of Florida offers plenty of areas, not only for the person who specifically targets fishing only piers and jetties, but for the angler who doesn't have the opportunity to fish from a boat, kayak, or canoe. We have the Naples Pier, Fort Myers Pier, Matanzas Pier, Ponce de Leon Park, Lashley Park, Gasparilla, Placida, and Sanibel Piers. Now, Marco, Gordon's Pass, Doctor's Pass, and Sanibel and Captiva offer areas where the rocks are piled up, which are considered jetties. The beneficial thing about these areas is they offer good structure for bait, and fish consistently live there. Also, you'll always have both incoming and outgoing tides. During migration periods, winter, summer, and fall, most fish will pass through there and take refuge. At times, you might need to use heavier tackle if you're fishing tight to the structure, but most of the time, medium to medium-heavy rod and anything from a 2500 to a 4000 series spinning reel is all you really need. Most baits are bucktails, spoons, shrimp imitation, lip plugs, or cut baits on the bottom, or live pinchers, pilchards, runs, mullards, and ladyfish. And the most common species caught with piers and jetties, depending on the time of year, are whiting, snapper, pompano, bluefish, mackerel, tarpon, snook, and shark. Now, on the inshore side, the redfish. With good incoming tides this week, both to the south and north will be flooding at the peak of the high. So the first half and the last half of the outgoing will be important times to catch fish right now. Jack Daniels Key to Pavilion Key on the outer Gulf Point, and to the north, the West Wall, Panther Key, Casino Key. Both these areas, early morning saltwater walking dog lures, half-ounce gold spoons, and bass assassin foreign sea shads and molting, drunk cookies, white, and lime cruise have been good. Also, live pinfish, pilchards, finger mullet, and cut mullet and ladyfish as the day heats up. Common size of fish right now are 20 to 30 inches. Now, on the offshore side, the Spanish mackerel. Marco to Wiggins Pass from the beach line to 20 miles out on wrecks, large bait pods, and large groups of diving birds. Also, bigger kinks will be with them and a little closer in, from the beach line to 8 miles out, there's tarpon right now chasing these Spanish mackerel. Once you get into Spanish mackerel, 3-ounce white bucktails, silver spoons, pilchards, all with wire. Once located, a limit is no problem, but have some blue runners with thread fins, drop down below for a chance at a nice size smoker king. Also on the offshore side, the red groupers. Sanibel Gordon's Pass, 45 to 65 feet of water, drifting large pieces of hard bottom. It's an artificial bite right now, 4 to 6-ounce white bucktails with squid, glowworms with curly tails, as well as vertical jigs. Once you start to locate the fish digging, cut herring, squid, sardines, or live pinfish will catch the limit if you're not used to using artificial. But right now, either way, the red grouper bite is hot. An example, picture of Dan Forstenack with Captain Mike Avanon using a Puma Helios, 4-pound test line, potential IFA record, 8.8 pounds, red grouper.
Great job, Ronnie. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Florida Outdoor Experience hotspots from the Southwest region. Inshore, Snook, late night incoming Goodland to Gordon's Pass docks. Look on the seawalls and the shadow lines. Use soft plastic shrimps and 3 to 5 inch lip plugs. And then offshore, mangrove snappers and yellowtails 18 to 25 miles out fishing wrecks and ledges. Chum heavy, then drop down the live pilchards, or even maybe a little piece of cut bait.
Okay, Rick, when we drift back, we're taking a trip to the Northwest region and then seeing what the Davester has to say at the CCA Workbench for the new products. Good stuff. Only on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report. Always. Dave always has good stuff.
Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by the Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. Hookup Lures, premium lures for serious anglers. FWC, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. La Jolla Resort, a place for family and fishermen. Navionics, we start where the road ends. Maverick Boat Company, celebrating 30 years of leadership in innovation, conservation, and stability. And First National Bank, your first choice for better banking.
At Yamaha, reliability is a family tradition. Meet the next generation. 4 new advanced technology-inspired inline 4-cylinder performers.
bred from the reliability and boater satisfaction that is part of Yamaha's DNA. They prove that when power gets lighter, faster, stronger, and smarter, boating gets even better and more satisfying for boaters like you.
You know there's more to it than luck. There's fishing the right bait, the water temperature, the wind, the season, and then there's the boat. We'll put it simply, the boat matters. To own a Contender is to own the best sport fishing boat on the market, period. Contender offers the most comprehensive model range with bigger, faster, and more fuel-efficient boats than the competition. There's only one choice for serious anglers. Contender Boats. Performance through innovation.
All fishermen are created equal. Some just use better fishing line.
For over 30 years, Guy Harvey has been a true hero to marine life and conservation. And now he's sharing his inspiration with an exclusive image for the Guy Harvey Heroes Scratch-Off game from the Florida Lottery. Win up to $50,000, incredible sport fishing trips, and the opportunity to fish with Guy Harvey himself. Celebrate your everyday heroes and the freedom to play with the Guy Harvey Heroes Scratch-Off game today. The Florida Lottery. Just imagine.
So guys, you ever wonder how you get away from ethanol problems? Well, here's the real answer. The real answer is Starbrite Startron. Now, the one thing that I know is near my house, there's not a lot of gas stations that sell E90, which is a wreck fuel with no ethanol. So we don't really have a lot of choices. Now remember, most of the Yamahas are designed to run on 89 octane. And so with a fuel treatment, you should never have any ethanol problems. Now for those of you guys that have an older boat, they're gonna have a certain problem if you run ethanol. And that problem is gonna be that the hoses and the filters, they weren't designed to have ethanol. So a way that you can offset that to make sure that you don't have a problem if you're running an ethanol-based fuel is that you want to treat your fuel with the Startron. Now the Startron simply is 1 ounce per 8 gallons will treat your whole tank of gas. Now the other thing that Starbrite's come out with is the Startron Ring Clean. And the Ring Clean is more of a motor treatment. It keeps your rings, it keeps the valves, it keeps your injectors, all of that clean. So with the two of these, you should never have any fuel problems. So nevertheless, no matter what you're doing, whether you're treating fuel, whether you have a new boat or an old boat, remember Startron. That's going to keep all your troubles from ever happening. Well, we're over here at the CCA Workbench, and new products is something we talk about every week. Dave, let's just get right into it.
All right, well, we're going to talk first about these Fendall dock fenders from the fellows at Decks and Docks. And, you know, if you get a dock built by anybody, you're going to want some fenders on it because you're going to be putting your boat up against it. And these are really made out of a special PVC that's impervious to the sun and weather and whatnot. It's got an internal high energy absorption with the way it's built, you know. And they come in 6 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet, 12 feet. But these are made mostly for pilings and sea walls and whatnot, so you can put them up against there. They come with ones where you can put them on a straight plank or even on a corner, like this one's made for a corner.
I like it.
Heck yeah, man! They keep your boat looking
our
nice.
Boat from getting banged up for sure.
Exactly. Plus, it keeps your dock from getting messed up as well.
All right, what else you got?
Well, these are the new Mustad Elite Ultra Point jig heads from Mustad. They've come out with these just recently. They took about 18 months to put them all together, and they've got 10 different models. You know, from the glow heads from a 1/16 ounce all the way up to a 1/2 ounce jig heads, and just really nice jig heads. They use the Ultra Point hooks and have a really nice setup as far as the thickness of the hook. They got real thick ones, and they also have real skinny ones, in case you want to put them in. Now this is I love these a lot. This is a live target, live mullet. You can pull them out of there if you like, but it's got double X hooks. If you can get it out of there without hooking yourself. The thing about it is,
Keep
it's just,
talking.
they just look really, really nice, and they have it looks like a mullet. And this is a walk the dog type bait. This is a surface bait, which I'm always,
Wow, that's
fun to
pretty
throw.
impressive.
That thing looks like a mullet,
I like
right
it.
here. I mean,
I like it.
and that's why they're called live target. But like the double strength hooks and the realistic triple eyes.
Dave, what's this big cart? Why don't we bring?
We got Anthony Amos
in?
here. Come on out here, Anthony. This is our new sea mule, and what this one is beach cart, correct?
Yep, that's exactly right. A few mates of us got together and thought we needed to improve what was in the marketplace, and a great mate of mine, Brian Taylor, said, let's build something completely different that isn't in the market right now.
The sea mule, and this is to get all your stuff out onto the beach.
That's exactly right. So if we can do it all from the beach, and including obviously the wade product that we've got over here, or the interchangeable parts, keeps it all together and gets us to the beach with everything we need to fish from the beach.
You got your spikes on there, and all this stuff comes off, you said?
It does. Everything's interchangeable, so you can either sort of load it up with anything that you need. You might even be able to sort of put a few little beers in here if you like to, but as Australians probably would. But unlike, fitting all the stuff in the kangaroo's pouch at home getting down to the beach, this is a better way of doing it.
How many rods can you put on here? Or?
Mate, there's probably a total of about 6 or 7. It just depends on what sort of rods, obviously, depending on the fisherman itself, but it just brings back a whole brand new element to fishing from the beach.
Right, and you got 6 spikes there as well.
Yeah, that's
right. It's always a pain to carry the spikes.
And it's durable. It's going to last for a lifetime. It's not sort of the stuff that we sort of found in the marketplace, and it brings a lot of value, to the anglers.
I see that you can take these wheels off.
You can. That's what this whole thing's about. It's about improving or taking away, or even if it's a smaller space to get to by the beach, you can actually sort of make it a little bit tighter. And as we're sort of saying, with the other 2 products that we have, all of it's interchangeable. You can take pieces off and add pieces together. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
So the other ones you have is a Pier one that's just purely for Pier. I imagine you could roll this one down the Pier if you wanted to.
Yeah, you probably could.
How's that Pier one a little different from this one?
Well, I guess it's sort of more lower to the ground. It's sort of got open up a little bit more, and you can sort of put more pieces together. Because if you want to fish with a mate, you sort of want to be able to sort of take a few more things down there together. With an esky full of beer, perhaps. Just sort of making a little bit more of a fun day.
And I heard it's got like a pivot on the front.
That's correct.
3 wheels versus 4.
The space that turns around is in such a short circle that you don't have to be, on a huge pier to be able to turn around. But that whole thing fits in the back of a boot of a car. Oh, sorry, a trunk.
That's perfect.
In the trunk of a car. Every single one of them folds up, gets into its little space, and fits right inside, a trunk of a car.
Anthony, the other one's over there is made for wading.
Now, real quick, this one's a tow wade, right? You can put it behind you.
Well, that's right. You can actually be in the water, this floating in front of you, where you can actually sort of fish from it. And again, all the interchangeable parts can actually maneuver with each other to be able to use.
All right, so last question for you. Where do we find out more information? How can I find out more about
What's really exciting about this, mate, is that getting together and working a plan. Seamule.com is where you've got to go to right now. The pre-orders that we're sort of working with, and we're going to be doing a Kickstarter campaign. So just jumping on that website for now is really what's going to nail it.
Well, I think this will probably give you a Kickstarter.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate it.
All right,
Thanks for coming, bro.
Thank you very much.
And I'm all about fishing with a mate. So, Brie, when are we going fishing?
Oh my gosh, I have to get down that accent. Crikey, that's not a knife. This is a knife. How'd I do? Good?
Yeah, sounded very good.
Yay.
I like it.
All right, let's have a sit down with Captain Jeff Hageman in the wettest Yeti Northwest region. Stand dry over there, Hagalicious.
We've got Piers and Jetty. We've got one of the biggest piers in my region in the state of Florida. Skyway Bridge spans almost the whole length of Tampa Bay, other than a little bit that is knocked down in the middle, which they made all that rubble that they took down, put it out in front of the fishing piers to give it some great structure. You can catch pretty much anything off of it. Kingfish, sharks, grouper, a lot of tarpon, Spanish mackerel. So we've got some really good pier fishing in our region all the way through it, and some good jetty and surf fishing in our region too. The wading in our region, you're going to want to get some shoes, some waders, something to protect your feet. We got a lot of rocks and oysters in my region, so you want to have something to protect your feet. And waders or a good pair of wading shoes is a good investment. But from land, snook, trout, redfish, off the docks and jetties we've got going up through the north are really good. Access points are all through the state of Florida, going up my region, and just check in with your local bait shop to find a good place like that. It's a great thing if you don't have a boat to get out there and enjoy Florida's fishing. Moving a little bit north, staying inshore, our trout bite
up in Homosassa seems to be doing really good. Right now, you want to look for the bait schools. Now, that little fry bait dimpling on top of the water, that's where the trout are going to be. Most of the trout right now are going to be that 15-inch to 16-inch, 17-inch fish. Not giants, but a lot of them. And they're fishing right now DOA couse, shad tail jigs on an 1/8-ounce jig head. And you want to bounce that underneath those jigs, underneath those schools to find those trout out there. That broken bottom and some flounder are being caught while he's doing that too. You just want to look around those bait schools. Look for that little bit of dimpling. And when I'm talking about dimpling, it looks like rain on the water, and it says schools of bait fish we got right now in our region. Moving offshore.
Go ahead.
The northern part of my region, fishing in 50 to 90 feet right now is where you're going to find your gag grouper in the northern part. The southern part's been a little bit deeper, that 70 to 120. Both of them are producing some really good gags right now. Pinfish and fake fish are still the bait of choice. And as far as cut bait goes, you want to use cut sardines. Standard bottom rigs, then the key on them. You can use a knocker rig, but that standard bottom rig is what you want to use. Most of the guys are telling me that's what they're fishing with. Rock piles, any kind of ledges, any kind of heavy structures right now is where those gag groupers are going to be. And you want to use, like I said, that heavy gear to get rocked up. If you get rocked up too much, it'll shut your bite down, and you don't want that to happen. Also out there right now, we've got an abundance of sharks on any kind of structure offshore. Pretty much what I've heard through the whole region. Anything that's got any kind of structure that's holding any kind of bait right now has got a bunch of spinner sharks, sharp nose, and those little reef sharks that are swimming all over the place. They're not real big, up to 4 feet or so, but a lot of fun to take the family out and do. They bite religiously. You can come them up right to the back of your boat, and they'll eat pretty much anything. Just a little piece of number 4 wire leader and a 4/0 circle hook and a long hook out so you can get that hook out without keeping your fingers is all you need to get out there and have some fun with those.
Hey, Jeff, I got a question for you. I got a new Maverick HPX-S coming. It should be done next week. And I want to actually come up and go do what we were doing up there off of Cedar Key, just south of there. What's a good time? Yeah, off of Wackasassa. What would be a good time of year to go do that?
I do that in the wintertime when that moon's really full on those big wintertime tides we get. We get in there and we'll actually get stuck back in those creeks, and all those fish get trapped in all these holes, which is the only place there's any water, so they've got to go to them. And like you did with me and you, we just got back in there and threw artificials, any kind of jig, Sugar X, all that stuff works well, and got back there and caught a bunch of redfish and trout. They get piled in there like fish in a barrel.
All right, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Drummond Community Bank hotspots from the Northwest region. Inshore redfish, the bite throughout the entire region remains strong on the top of the tide using cut bait. And then offshore groupers, 70 to 120 feet of water over rock piles and ledges, use pinfish and sardines on a standard bottom rig.
Next up on our list is the East and Keys region, so stick around and we'll be back as fast as our Yamahas can bring us back, right, Rick?
That's right.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Rapala. Catch the latest at Rapala.com. StarTron. Cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems. Yeti Coolers. Built for the wild. CCA Florida. The voice of recreational anglers for over 30 years. Strike Zone Fishing. Your fish hunt paddle store. Guy Harvey. Marine wildlife artist and conservationist. And Sea Sucker. Vacuum mounting systems.
Serious fishermen demand quality equipment on their boats and on shore. That's why Florida boaters have trusted Decks and Docks for over 20 years for dock lumber, hardware, and accessories. Tough products that stand up to the roughest environments, and elegance to please the most discerning homeowner tastes. Decks and Docks, supplying waterfront customers with lumber, decking, and seawall, with 10 locations across Florida.
There are 2 cages in this room. The one on your right is made out of high-strength steel, and the other is made of aluminum. Now I'm going to release a 700-pound grizzly bear, so pick a cage and get in it.
Well, I'm glad I picked this cage.
Why did you pick the steel cage?
That's a big animal right there.
You want to see something else made with high-strength steel? That's the Chevy Silverado, made with high-strength steel for high-strength dependability.
It's beautiful. Look at the size of his head.
here at Power Pole headquarters, and today's Power Pole tip of the week is about the Power Pole downrigger. Now the cool part about this is this could be one of the neatest accessories that Power Pole has to offer. Now the downrigger is going to hook right here at the knuckle with a clip, a release clip down here on the end of the shaft, giving you a different pull point from a different part of the transom. Now what really makes this cool to me is that you can fish off of the beach over on the East Coast trolling for kingfish as well as tarpon during the summer. Or if you're over here on the West Coast, I really see it working well around the bridges and pylons for groupers, or maybe in the inlets for trolling for snook. The whole concept is that you're able to eliminate all that weight and have a pull point that's down deep in the water by simply just deploying your Power Pole downrigger. And that's today's Power Pole tip of the week. It's about the downrigger. About the downrigger.
I see you over there feeling up your muscles and whatever. Stop.
Back in the gym.
Just
for
stop.
5 months.
All right, from the Decks and Docks East region is Captain Mike Holliday with some exciting news for all of us Pier and Jettiers, and I'm trying to figure it out. So Mike, go ahead while I mull it over.
Mull it over.
Get it? Okay, go ahead.
We really couldn't have picked a better time to talk about fishing piers and jetties in my region. With the fall mullet run kicking in and the mullet schools running the beach and into the inlets on pretty much a daily basis. All the inlets in my region have great fishing that'll only get better over the next 6 weeks. And, you know, at every inlet in my region, the North Jetty blocks a natural flow of the mullet schools as they travel southbound the beach. And that creates an ambush point for snook, for tarpon, spinner sharks, big jack, snapper, even the largest ladyfish we'll see all year. Picken Inlet, Palm Beach, Jupiter, Stewart, and Fort Piers. And at dawn, dusk, and after dark, when the bait pushes through those areas, the bite will be, you know, full carnage of all those fish feeding on those mullet. Live mullet, swimming plugs, topwater plugs, and the big plastic swim baits, you know, like a dye dapper or an elite shiner. All those will work really well in the inlets right now. At the same time, the Lake Worth and Juneau Beach piers, they'll be going off at night and during the daytime whenever the schools, you know, of bait are moving through the pilings. Snook, tarpon, and snapper will probably be the main focus for everybody. But, you know, everything from barracuda to kingfish will come in to eat. Live mullet, sardines, pilchards. Really, those are the bait of choice of the piers. And I've got a couple photos there. The first one's of Scott Martin. He caught that tarpon on the tip of the North Jetty at the St. Lucie Inlet last week. He was fishing with Captain Ken Hudson, and in the second picture, his father, Roland Martin, who was with him. He also released a nice tarpon that day. Both those fish ate live mullet. So, you know, the jetties are going off right now. The other deal going on, the first week of snook action, it was kind of hit or miss for a lot of anglers. In the St. Lucie Inlet, those fish had kind of moved out of the inlet and into the Indian River, while at Jupiter and Fort Pierce inlets, the snook action was still very strong. You know, there's a consistent bite at the Juneau and Lake Worth piers right now, and also up around the spillways with Taylor Creek up in Fort Pierce and the Boynton Spillway, both red hot right now. With a new moon this weekend, the tides are going to be extremely high, and that'll push a lot of snook off the flats and along to the shorelines to feed on the mullet as they're going up the river. That means the seawalls, the docks, the bridges, they'll all hold fish. And the fish are starting to focus on mullet, so a live mullet pitched up against the seawall is definitely going to get a lot of attention right now. At first light, a Yozuri sashimi pencil or a mag minnow or a dye dapper in black and gold, you run that right down the wall, and you get those explosive topwater bites. The average snook in my region, 6 to 20 pounds. And as long as we're on piers and jetties, I got a photo there, Chris Bishop. He caught that big snook right there off the Juneau Pier. That fish ate a free line live pilchard, and later in the day he caught one on a 3D mullet.
Man, looking good. All right, let's go ahead and go offshore there, Pop.
Well, if you like to, you know, bottom fish and live in St. Lucie County, this is the time to get out to 60 to 70 feet of water and drop a bait for those big mangrove snapper. There's also been a good showing of mutton and mangrove snapper on the reefs in 25 feet of water just north of Fort Pierce Inlet on the reef out there, also on the Loran Tower Ledge off Hope Sound, and on the 80-foot drop off Jupiter. The further south you go, the more mutton snapper are in the mix. Further north you go, the more mangroves in the mix. The best fishing's been at night, but it's going all day long as well. For bait, pretty hard to beat a Spanish sardine or a cigar minnow.
either live or dead. But, you know, pilchards, finger mullet, sand perch, and pinfish, those are all good options. For the larger fish, a live grunt or a full-size threadfin's a really good bait. Most of the time, you can fish them on 20-pound tackle, 40-pound fluorocarbon leader, and a 4-0 circle hook. And the average mangrove snapper is going to be 2 to 4 pounds with fish to 10 pounds in the mix. Most of those big fish coming at night. The other deal, over the holiday weekend, there was a huge weed line offshore about 25 miles off the coast, and it was just covered up in dolphins. And the weed line's kind of broken up and it's pushing segments in closer to shore, creating a pretty consistent dolphin bite all week. The dolphin were caught in less than 100 feet of water the last couple of days, but the best fishing is still in 400 to 1,000 feet of water or more. And, you know, it's still time to run and gun, carry that philosophy, cover a lot of water. Instead of just, you know, arbitrarily putting your baits out at a certain depth and trolling around, run until you find something that looks good, then fish it for a while. If nothing happens, run some more. You want to cover a lot of water when you're running gunning, even when you find something. So when you do stop, you control feathers and a strip bait. You control rig ballyhoo. You can throw your cast net before you head offshore and load up with mullet and have them ready as pitch baits. Or you can slow troll them around the best looking stuff or any stuff that you see a lot of fish around. And if you're going to troll mullet, put a little wire ahead of the hook just in case you run into a wahoo or 10 out there. There's been quite a few. Average dolphin in my region has been 5 to 15 pounds. And the deeper you go, a lot of those 15, 20 pounders.
Hey, those are some great pictures of the martins. Hey, speaking of martins, how about the bass report? Did you get any info from those guys when you were shooting those pictures?
You know, I talked to a bunch of different people this week about bass, and the best bite going in freshwater right now is the first light bite at the Stick Marsh Farm 13 Reservoir in Fellsmere. I was talking to Captain Mike Arnoldy of HollandBassGuide.com, and he said if you're on the water when the light hits the horizon, and if you're throwing a chug bug, a skitterwalk, or a rubber frog, anywhere around the eelgrass or the hydrilla areas that are topping out, you can catch a fish on at least every other cast, if not on every cast. The problem is the bite's over pretty quickly. Then it's time to look for moving water on the edges of the grass lines, and that's where the shad are all bunched up. You can throw a tap-out worm, rig Senko style, or you can throw swim baits in the shad colors or in a June bug color. The nice thing is the fish are averaging 2 to 6 pounds. They're really fat. They've been gorging on shad for a while. The largest fish are coming out of the deeper holes on live shiners. And the thing is, the rain's been chasing everybody off the water early. So Arnoldy is averaging 30 to 60 fish a day right now. And a lot of times, you come in when it rains, just kind of hang out. It clears up. You go back out. You got the place to yourself.
All right, thank you so much. Mike, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the East region hotspots from the Decks and Docks region. Inshore, Tarpon in the St. Lucie Inlet at night. Live mullet on the North Jetty on the outgoing tide. And then offshore, king mackerel, 60 to 75 feet of water north of number 12 buoy. Live sardines, blue runners, mullet on a number 4 stinger rig is going to work best for those king.
Yeah, that's like the rain clearing out the lines at Disney World.
Yeah.
And then you go back and you're like, shh, right to the front.
That's it,
All
right to
right,
the front.
let's head south to our Captain Randy Tow in the Keys region. Congrats on your granddaughter, Randy. She's beautiful.
Granddaughter.
Oh, thank you. Hey,
You're
good
welcome.
evening, fish fans. You know, we don't have piers like you normally see up and down the coastlines. We've got bridges, and these are the old US 1 highway bridges that they turned into fishing piers, and you can actually go out on these old bridges and you can fish, and fishing at times can be pretty good. Now, Channel 2 and Channel 5 and Long Key Bridge in the Upper Keys and the 7 Mile Bridge down in Marathon are some of the most popular bridges that people go to fish on. And those bridges you can fish on top of, unlike some of the other ones you have to fish on the ends where you're on the rocks and things like that. But, you know, just like any kind of fishing you want to do, the conditions and the tide will kind of dictate what you can get away with, what you can catch. And then if you have a target species, you know, that's going to play a factor as well. Mangrove snappers, jack crevalles, Spanish mackerel, those are some popular fish around the bridges. And if you night fish, if you want to get out there at night and do the snook thing and the tarpon fishing, that can also be the prime time to go do it. Depending on your bridge that you're going to and the time of year, it might be the outgoing tide or it might be the incoming tide that's best, because they all change throughout the year. So depending on where you're going, you can have some pretty good action usually if you're going to put some time in on some of those bridges. It doesn't take a lot. A bucket of shrimp or some cut bait on a bottom rig, you're going to catch a fish.
All right, staying inshore, what do you got?
The snook fishing right now is still pretty strong, even though snook season opened, and the calendar for the snook, they know what time of year it is, and they're cooperating a little bit. Now, personally, I haven't been able to catch many keepers. We've been catching plenty on the smaller side. I find it funny that before the season opened, they were all on the bigger side, but that's just fishing. I talked to some friends of mine, Captain Brian Williams, who's been back there the last couple of days doing really well around Flamingo when you've got that incoming high water, and then as that the tide starts to fall, guys are finding them on the shorelines and the beaches, and live pinfish or a finger mullet right now is your best bait. There's plenty of finger mullet along the beaches, so you want to get on those beaches and look for the finger mullet and use those for bait right now. They're working really well. The offshore fishing, you know, we talk about the blackfin tuna. It almost feels like tarpon season because the blackfin tunas don't want to leave. They've been on the humps, the Islamorada, the 409, the West Hump, very strong, and guys are trolling with the pink or the black eels, which are my favorite. I like to troll them slow, and sometimes they're a little more effective than the guys with the live bait, although if you want to catch a 30-pounder, that's the way you're going to do it. The last few days, the guys trolling have actually done better than the guys with the live bait because of the number of skipjacks that have been on the humps right now. But still a great bite on the blackfin tunas on most any hump, depending on where you're fishing out of. The yellowtail bite on the edge of the reef, something I enjoy doing a lot. The conditions have been tough for it, but over the weekend, conditions improved. The water was a little off color, the current was right, and they were cooperating pretty nicely for most everybody. 55 to 60 feet of water, get your chum going. Now, a lot of guys haven't seen the yellowtails behind the boat, but they've been drifting a bait back after a few minutes. A piece of cut ballyhoo on a 16th-ounce hookup works very well, and then other guys were telling me they were coming right up to the chum bag. So depending on where you're fishing on the reef, your conditions may vary, but the yellowtailing's been very strong the last few days.
All right, great report, Randy. We want to go ahead and take a look at let's talk about these baby photos here of Amanda Scarlett. Look at this. There's a baby feet.
Oh, she's adorable. It's actually Amelia.
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 Scarlett. That was my mother's name, Scarlett.
Oh,
it
it's
was
beautiful.
Randy,
Look at your
congratulations. I love it.
Another
All right,
female
Grandpa.
to add to your family.
Now we got something to drink about when we go to the Miami Dolphins game. I'm going to go ahead and get to the La Jolla hotspots from the Florida Keys. Wow. Inshore. Triple tail, look for them floating along the shorelines and the beaches on the rising tide, and then offshore yellowtails anchoring 60 feet where the current is good, chum heavy. And then start with one rod at a time, Brie.
You almost forgot about the baby pictures. How could you?
I didn't know how to get there. I was looking at them and I was like, oh, they're so cute.
She distracted you.
She did. Oh,
it's all right.
Just like
way more important than hotspots.
Just like most pretty women.
All right, well now it's time to take a look at some tournaments in the Florida Keys. All right, marking its golden anniversary, the Key West Fishing Tournament continues through November 30th and targets 37 different species. There's free registration of catches and witnessed releases at tackle stores throughout the Lower Keys and Key West. Honoring the late Miami Dolphins tight end, the Mad Dog Mandich Fishing Classic, set for October 9th and 10th in Islamorada, has both inshore and offshore divisions. The Islamorada Fall All-Tackle Bonefish and Permit Championship is set for October 11th through the 14th and attracts energized newcomers to face seasoned veterans. Maverick Boat Florida Owners Tournament is set for September 24th through the 27th in Islamorada. This Keys tournament staple is going on its 29th straight year, and it's a family-friendly event for Maverick, Hughes, Pathfinder, and Cobia owners. And you know what, Rick? I think it's time to introduce your little friend from last week's show, Andy Newman.
Well, hi guys. For many years, there have been 3 fall tournaments in the Florida Keys that have served as important fundraisers to help fight cystic fibrosis. They're all part of the Redbone Celebrity Tournament series. They begin with this weekend's Robert James Sales Slam Tournament in Key West. It targets catch and release fishing for bonefish, tarpon, and permit. Next up, the Bay Bone in Key Largo. That's set for October 9th through the 11th and features bonefish and permit. finally, it's a tournament that began it all, the Redbone in Alamorada, where bonefish and redfish are king. Now you can get more details at redbone.org. And for the scoop on all Keys tournaments and travel information, go to the Florida Keys website. It's flakeys.com. Hey guys, it was great having Insider in the Florida Keys last week to talk about fall fishing and fall travel values.
Thanks, Andy. You guys did a good job last week down there.
Yeah, man.
What were
we
you?
had a lot of
What'd
fun.
you have in your cups at the end of the
I
night?
had a pain in the ass.
Oh, well, that's
Andy bought that for me. That's a
ironic.
love-hate relationship he and I
Right,
have.
right. It's
It's
cute.
all good.
It was cute. We saw it all on screen. All right, coming right up, we have the Coast to Conservation Minute Tip, and then we're checking in with our last region of the state, the Central East region, right here on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report.
All right.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Chevrolet, find new roads. Yamaha, reliability starts here. Suffix, the world's most hardcore fishing line. The IGFA, conservation through education. Get your hands wet. Florida Outdoor Experience. Captain Harry's Fishing Supply Company. Best parts, best prices. Bennett Auto Supply. And there's no stopping Okuma.
Introducing Helmmaster, Yamaha's first fully integrated digital boat control system. With Helmmaster, you can start your outboards with a swipe of a paw and control them with a single lever. Outboard trim and steering friction adjust automatically as you accelerate and decelerate. Adjust engine speed with the touch of a button. The Helmmaster joystick provides the means to navigate and dock precisely with confidence and ease. Take control of your next vessel with Helmmaster at your command.
There's no specials on days like today. Nothing's cheap. Nothing's on the house. You can have your happy hour, but only after you've paid the full price.
Remember the glory days of gasoline? It's just not made the same anymore.
Kick your gas into gear with StarTron. Pump up the performance in all of your engines. Cure the problems of ethanol with the power of enzymes. And maximize your mileage every time you drive. Kickstart your engines with StarTron.
There are two cages in this room. The one on your right is made out of high-strength steel, and the other is made of aluminum. Now I'm gonna release a 700-pound grizzly bear into the room, so you better pick a cage and get in it.
This is crazy. Oh my goodness. Ooh.
Why did you pick the steel cage?
Harder for the bear to get in than steel.
You want to see something else made with high-strength steel? That's the Chevy Silverado, made with high-strength steel for high-strength dependability.
Beautiful. This is highly irregular.
The Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission recently created the Gulf Reef Fish Survey and needs your participation. The information you will provide will help the FWC paint a better picture of Gulf Reef fisheries. Through this program, researchers will be able to better determine how many people in Florida are targeting reef fish like red and vermilion snappers, groupers, amberjacks, and gray triggerfish. Participating in the Gulf Reef Fish Survey is easy, and there's no cost. All you have to do is visit license.myfwc.com, click on Purchase a License to add Gulf Reef Angler to your cart. You can also sign up when renewing and purchasing a saltwater fishing license at any retailer such as tackle shops, sporting goods stores, and tax collectors' offices. Now, if you're 65 or older, you don't need a license, but you will need to get the survey. Want to know more, including who is required to participate and what reef fish species are part of the program, visit myfwc.com/fishing and click on Saltwater Recreational Regulations and Gulf Reef Fish Survey. Man, the producer just dish ragged me in my ear. She said that I don't need a license now because I'm 65 or older.
Oh,
that is so
are you
bad.
okay?
Hey, Nicole.
Here's a little tear.
Unemployment line.
Oh, no. Okay, let's welcome back Captain Jim Ross from the Central East region, who did an amazing job last week holding down the fort.
He did.
With me on set while Rick was living it up in the Keys.
Thank you
Hey,
so much, Jimmy.
Well, I had a whole lot of fun with Brie in the studio last week, but I tell you, Brie and I were really jealous
And Dave.
Oh, and Dave, yeah, we were all really jealous because you were down there in the Keys having such a good time with that snapper being cooked and those rum runners and other drinks. I was telling you, I was like, one of these days we're going to live the life of Rick Murphy, I guess.
Oh, stand by on that one, big boy. Let's go. Tell me what you got for me. Let's talk about Piers and Jetties.
I got to be careful what I wish for, right?
Yeah.
Hey, we've got quite a few of them here in this region, but they're a real hit or miss proposition in some cases. Timing is really paramount on these things. The fish are going to bite around these structures based on the amount of bait fish that are holding nearby. So anglers that are fishing from like the Port Canaveral Jetty or the Cocoa Beach Jetty normally have their best luck whenever there's menhaden, mullet, croakers, or glass minnows that are around these structures. You start hearing about cobia and sharks and redfish and flounder and mangrove snapper and snook and all these other things around these two locations, especially in the fall time because we get a huge influx of bait fish around them. But there's other times of the year that they're okay, and then there's other times of the year that they're not okay. So if there's not bait fish, you're probably not going to catch a lot there. Now, some of the other jetties that we have to talk about are at Canaveral and Ponce, and they're more fish from a boat, like the North Jetty at Canaveral or the North Jetty or South Jetty at Ponce. And those things can be used or can be fished with artificials. And if you use an artificial, an X-Wrap is a really, really good one, or a storm swim bait, because they're imitating those bait fish, whether you use a little X-Wrap for the glass minnows, a bigger storm bait for the mullet or whatever. You want to try to match the hatch as much as possible, that's for sure. Now, on the outgoing tide, you're typically going to do better than you are on the incoming tide on the jetties themselves. But on the piers, the incoming tide can actually be a better time to fish, especially if you're targeting things like flounder and mangrove snapper. So timing is critical, type of bait you're using, and fish you're targeting are all very, very critical whenever you're fishing some of these structures. Now, fishing on the inside, we're catching a lot of redfish right now, and they're pretty plentiful again this week in my region. However, they haven't really been hitting very good, especially during the morning periods. We're watching a lot of fish moving around and tailing and doing those sorts of things, but we're not getting as many strikes as we want. Now, if you want to try and increase your strike ratio, go small. The soft plastics, little tiny things like the 4-inch assassin shrimp or the 3-inch assassin straight-tailed shad, which is actually more of a freshwater-sized bait. But if you rig it on a little weedless worm hook, it looks like a little glass minnow or a little shrimp, and you can catch these redfish, especially when they're being really, really picky and just not wanting to take much of anything that's a little bit larger. And that's what we've been finding with our calm mornings that we've been having here lately. Now, one of the things that you're also going to want to do is be super stealthy and do not let them know you're there. Use a push pole, or if you're wading, try to wade slowly so that you're not making a commotion in the water. Definitely trolling motors are difficult to get on the fish sometimes because they're hearing that motor and they'll move away from you. But our redfish right now are running from slot size to about 30 inches, and there's even some 40-inchers still running around on the flats. And here's an example of using a smaller lure to catch a large fish. I've got a picture here with Mike Hayward, and he was out with me just a couple days ago, and we're using the small-sized topwater bait from Rapala, the little Skitterwalk 08 size bait, and caught this 41-inch redfish while doing so. So stealth is key, and using little baits oftentimes will catch you big fish.
Elephants eat peanuts. Let's go offshore, bub.
Snappers right now are doing still pretty good. The 60 to 120 foot depths are where you want to be, especially if you're trying to get your 5-fish limit of those mangrove snapper. You want to chum over these structures, and you want to allow the drift chunks back, or allow your baits to drift real naturally with the current. And if you don't use too much weight, it will get back in there and it will look just like one of those other baits, and you can get those bigger mangroves to pick those baits up. Now also, if you can find live pilchers or live fingerling mullet, they can be a really good substitute for those chunk baits, especially if you're fishing at night on those structures. Now our king mackerel bite has been up one day and down the next. We've had some really weird just days lately, and the guys I'm talking to haven't really figured it out. One day they're catching bonitas and barracudas, the next they're limiting out on their king mackerel. But right now, if you're looking for the king mackerel, when you find a bite, it's typically on those 70 to 90 foot reefs, and East 11 in the party grounds out of Ponce Inlet, the A-Can bottom, the 8A reef, and then north into Pelican Flats has also been pretty good. To the south, I haven't heard a whole lot of kingfish being caught, so I didn't really include that in this week's report. But those middle and northern portions of my region seem to be best right now. Now, live bait fish are definitely going to be your best chance if you're slow trolling with those pogies or sardines or mullet. But right now, you can also still get them on strip baits, and a lot of times the strip baits on a planer with a little sea witch can be very, very effective. So don't overlook that. The kingfish are running 10 to 15 pounds, but some of those fish are running up into the 20-pound class right now, Rick.
All right, thank you so much, Jimmy. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hookup lure hotspots from the Central East region. Inshore, redfish in the Mosquito Lagoon use fresh cut pinfish on a VMC circle hook. And then offshore, mangrove snapper on the reef 60 to 90 feet outside of Sebastian. Use live fingerling mullet or cut sardines on a standard bottom rig.
Well, you may have all the secrets you need to slay Piers and Jetties this weekend, but don't you want to know what we're reporting on next week?
I do.
Okay, well, stay hooked to find out, and we'll be right back. High five. Oh, I got you.
What do you think?
When I first sit in the seat, it makes me think of a BMW.
I feel like I'm in a Lexus.
You would think that this was a brand new Audi.
It's like a luxury car.
It feels kind of like an Infinity.
Very similar to Range Rover.
This is pretty high tech.
Yeah, it is. It reminds me of the Mercedes.
This is Chevy?
Wow.
I have a new appreciation for Chevy.
They thought about me.
I could totally rock this. This thing feels pretty boss.
It looks kind of dope.
That's pretty cool.
This is the jam.
Pretty bomb, dude.
Maybe I will go Chevy.
I got my first Yamaha in 1994, and I still use that outboard in the Bahamas today. This Yamaha 130 has over 2,000 hours on it, and it sometimes sits for 6 months. I can always depend on it starting and performing like it did when it was new. Everybody knows Yamaha stakes their reputation on reliability, and for me, that Yamaha 130 is living proof. So if you're considering a Yamaha, I can tell you that reliability and performance is something that you can count on for a long time.
Forage fish are small fish that hold marine food webs together. Put simply, forage fish like pilchards turn sunshine into snook. The IGFA and other conservation organizations are working with the FWC to improve forage fish management in Florida. Ensuring that there's enough food in the water for our game fish will maintain Florida's legacy as the fishing capital of the world. Visit floridaforagefish.org to learn more and to sign the Forage Fish Pledge.
For over 30 years, Guy Harvey has been a true hero to marine life and conservation. And now he's sharing his inspiration with an exclusive image for the Guy Harvey Heroes Scratch-Off game from the Florida Lottery. Win up to $50,000, incredible sport fishing trips, and the opportunity to fish with Guy Harvey himself. Celebrate your everyday heroes and the freedom to play with the Guy Harvey Heroes Scratch-Off game today. The Florida Lottery. Just imagine.
Thanks for tuning in to the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter to keep up with our captains, contests, and appearances. You never have to miss a show. You can find full episodes of the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report right on your YouTube channel. And make sure to check out our website for fishing reports in your region. Visit www.ChevyFloridaInsiderFishingReport.com for everything you need to know to stay hooked up. Next week on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report, we are talking bass. All about the bass. Be sure to tune in to Sun Sports every Thursday. Plus, you can catch repeats of the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report on Fridays and Saturdays. Check your local listings for times. And I see a beautiful kid.
We have a happy birthday for our set designer, my
Yes,
brother-in-law,
we do.
Thomas Taylor.
He's
Tommy.
21.
21 years old. I even got your 21. I even got your little balloon. Says thanks for all you do.
He does a lot.
Beautiful. You do everything around here, and we appreciate you very much.
Makes this
Look at the
place look
pictures. This is when we all went down to Guatemala, and there we are with Poppy and Grandma and all your...
And your
And
sissy.
then your sister.
We love you,
for
Thomas.
everything
He
you
makes
do,
this set
Thomas.
beautiful.
He does.
He puts up all the
Every week.
fish.
He has to put up with me and Brie and our little
He's the best.
attitudes.
And our tudes. Well,
Yeah,
here,
man.
Thomas.
That's mean. Oh, I knew
You
it.
get one
Bye,
too.
guys. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Bye.
Happy birthday.
See you next week for bass.
Okay.